Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is lesson 531. The title of the lesson today is the difference between convince and persuade. Okay, somebody wants a screenshot, do it right now. All right, now this one's a little bit difficult. I've had students often ask me what's the difference between these two. I think it's a little bit more difficult for actually an American to answer this because I think there's a slight difference between British English and American English in this regard. So let's look here at the board first. If a person or thing convinces another person or group of something, he or she believes it is true or exists. So basically, you've made them think this way. You've changed their mind to think this way, or you've actually made them believe that this is true. All right, now the second one here is mostly American, and this is where some of the difference comes in because this is not British. This is when I looked at it, I see in the American definition of it, if you convince someone to do something, he or she persuades someone to do something. So this almost makes these two interchangeable in American English, but there's a clearer difference here in British English. Let's continue. If a person persuades another, he or she influences them, by talking to them, to take a particular action by giving them good reasons. So the key part about persuade, especially in British English, is you take an action. And also in American English too. Usually when you persuade someone, you persuade them to do something, to take and to do an action. Okay, let's continue. In British English, there's a clear difference because convince mostly means to change one's mind, which may or may not lead to doing an action. Persuade means that you not only convince someone, but you encourage or stimulate them to take an action. All right, let's continue. Even in American English, persuade suggests that you may need more effort to change a person's mind. So it's not 100% the same. Even though they're more interchangeable in American English, I still think you use persuade more when it takes a lot more convincing, a lot more effort. Then you're a little more likely to use persuade than convince, although they are still close to interchangeable. For example, if someone was not really sure about something, thus they were not particularly strongly leaning one way or the other, and by your facts or evidence, your ideas help them to believe something, then convince is more likely. So if they were more open-minded to begin with in American English, and then you gave them a lot of facts, so you kind of convinced them. Okay. Persuade is more likely used in American English when someone was already believing the opposite or strongly leaning toward that opinion, and you have to change the mind and bring them back to your thinking and to take action in that situation. So there is a bit of a difference in American English too. But I think it's more in American English has to do with the amount of effort that you have to do in making them think the way you think. Okay, but like I said, in British English, the idea is convince is more with, you've given them enough facts to think one way, and persuade, they always talk about persuade with action in British English. All right, let's continue. So, all right, we got a few examples here. So here's an example to kind of clarify what I'm trying to explain here. Now, in British English, if you said, I tried to convince her to take the day off, now this is an action. So in British English, here there's an X. They would consider that to be not correct. They would say, I tried to persuade her to take the day off because you're persuading her to take an action. Okay, but in American English, I tried to convince her to take the day off. We wouldn't find anything wrong with that at all. We would say that, sure, no problem. All right, and let me give you another example of the part that I think in American English. He was going to vote for this political party, but I persuaded him it was in his best interest to vote for the other candidate. So he was already on the other side thinking that way, and you had to go through a lot of effort, a lot of talking to get him to come the other way. Then I think persuade is a little more common. Now, could you say I convinced him? Yeah, maybe in American English. That's why it's close to interchangeable. It just means you're more likely to use persuade when you got to go through a lot more talking and a lot more, basically a lot more persuading, a lot more convincing them and changing their opinion, bringing it all the way back in American English. All right, and we just give, I think, one more example down here. By looking at this evidence, I was convinced of his innocence. All right, so in this sense, again, like in British English, you're not telling somebody to do an action. You just made their thinking different. So convince would be used this way, and of course, you can definitely use this in American English this way as well. All right. By looking at the evidence, I was persuaded by his innocence. That actually seems a little strange. This in American English, I don't think we would say, I was persuaded of his innocence here. By looking at the evidence, usually we use it with people. People tend to persuade you, and it's usually through more effort. Okay. Well, anyway, I hope this kind of helps. I hope this gives you a little bit of a better feel. Even though in American English, they're close to interchangeable, in British English, there's more of a clearer difference. There's more of a subtle, clear difference between the two. Anyway, I hope it was informative. I hope you got it. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.